What I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about communication, personality, and then talk a little bit about employed physicians versus private practice. And in 5 minutes towards the end of this thing, I'd like several people in here have had experience in this and share some ideas if you think that would really help the rest of the group. Let's talk a little bit about communication. I hear a lot of people talking about that, and here's some of my ideas. Communication, what one person sends and what the other person receives. The closer that's exactly right, the better we're communicating. And I'm sure you wonder sometimes if you send something, do they really hear what I'm sending, from comments back, and when people are listening, I wonder if I'm hearing what this guy is sending. Communication. What you send, what they receive is exactly the same, better communication. Whole next step is, do I agree with what I heard? Whole nother step. Then it goes on from there. So please remember that. And let me go on and say this. Do you care how you send things? Or is it their responsibility to hear clearly what I'm sending? You're not going to like what I'm going to say. If you don't care how you send things, you don't care about this relationship. So if you're really concerned about the relationship, you got to, am I sending this so they can hear it clearly, cleanly, exactly what I'm sending? Then we can talk about differences if you like. Let's talk just a little bit about personality. Everybody's got one. Wonder if I know what makes mine. Let me start out with what basically makes you and I what we are individually. There's something called biopsychosocial, and it goes something like this. The first one, biological, is a genetic predisposition which makes anybody what they are according to stresses it can cause, chemical imbalances. Second one's personality. Everybody's got one, and you have a bunch of unconscious coping skills, denial, repression, regression, reaction, formation, all that stuff, and it's out of your conscious awareness. And I have people say, I know what I'm doing all the time. I have people tell me that. Now, what I'm telling you, everybody in this room's got your biases. You with me? What we were brought up with. Do you know yours? Are you really interested in knowing any of them? That'll tell you a little about who you are, how you think, how you come across to others. And I have people tell me I don't have an unconscious mind. Yeah, okay. And communication gets real complicated. All kind of stuff. Will you point at people, how you stand? Do you roll your eyes? Voice. Yes, I love you. What in the world does that mean? Do you go by the words? You go by the emotion? So you need to be aware if you're going to communicate, how you communicate effectively, or does it cause you problems? Do you care? Do you need to change it? It clearly will affect how you communicate and relationships. All right, and the third one is biopsychosocial environmental stresses. We are going to have stresses. A lot of people ask me, why in the world do I have all this stuff? I don't know the answer to that. But we are going to have stresses. I think the answer is this is not heaven. You are going to have stresses. Now, some people lose a leg, some people have chronic illness, some people have all kind of stuff. My wife dies, all kind of stresses. And the question is, how do you deal with that? Those three things working together determine what you and I are and how we function and interact with others. Every one of your patients got those three things going on. And I'll tell you, if you just do the chemical stuff, you're leaving two parts of a human being unassessed or untreated. As long as you know that, you make your mind what you want to do. And I respect that I don't know it all, so that's why we're going to get you guys to help at the end of this thing. And you might want to know your limits. I heard some guy say that a few seconds ago. If you don't know them, it may be smart either to learn them or don't go there. But look at what you do, how you interact. Okay, everybody okay on communication? Is it going to affect how you function in the world? Let's talk now. Let me tell you one thing about communication. It's all kind of stuff you can do, Myers-Briggs stuff, and one of them is askers, sharers, and tellers. Now, they tell me you and I come across one of those three ways. And I heard all this stuff, and I went home to my mom, and my mom was telling me what I need to do and all. And I said, Mom, you're a teller. And she looked at me real funny, and she said, well, what does that mean? I'm trying to talk. I said, but you're a teller. And she said, what does that mean? She said, well, I don't know, but I've been talking this way for 80 years now. And that's right. That's something, a personality trait she had learned, and I was a little boy, it worked well. Now, if you got a teller and you got to ask her, as long as that's going on in your little boy, that works well. And if we get bigger, sometimes it means you resent somebody telling us. You guys might want to listen to how you come across to others. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a share and having authoritative knowledge that you have that you're sharing with somebody else, but if you tell people, wonder if they like that or not. Again, now, if you are sharing, you're in a relationship, that works well for a while. After a while, the asker wants to know, can I be equal to you? We don't like to be in a submissive time all the time. Most people don't. You start resenting that after a while. And I ask all the medical students, which one of these are you? And you know what about 99.9 of them say? I'm a sharer. Then we start looking at what you do and how you interact with patients, and all of a sudden, hey, you can get some insights. How do you come across? Do you care? Do you want to look at how you communicate? Do you need to make any changes? Your call. It will affect your relationships. Patients, peers, spouse, wife, kids. All right, let's talk a little bit about, there are a lot of kind of employed physicians. I was trying to list them, and I started out with locum tenens. Everybody knows a little bit about locum tenens now, our day and time. And then there's a lot of other types, military, VA, and I started listing these things, and there were numerous, man. State agencies, Department of Mental Health, Department of Corrections, DHEC, goes on and on. Academics, goes on and on. A bunch of employed physicians going on at this time. And then the last one is contracts with hospitals I've got up there, and hospitalist. Now there's something, hospitalist, not hospice, hospitalist. And that was first coined in 1996 by Robert Wechter and Lee Goldman in New England Journal of Medicine. And they were talking about these are physicians who specialize in hospital care and try to help make it more efficient for the patients and the hospitals. And this has evolved over time from convenience, efficiency, money restraints for the private practitioner getting out of your office, going to make hospital rounds, patient safety, if you're in the hospital all the time, do you know their procedures, whatever, in that particular hospital? Different hospitals have different rules, I guess you know, and you go to different ones. You have to know what they're doing in each hospital. And cost effectiveness for the hospitals, getting things done, make rounds maybe more than once on the patients, and get more specialized care. And I'm told that the hospitalist is supposed to contact your private physician when they come in and when they go out, so we have good continuing care when you leave. I hope that goes on at all places. When it first started out, there were something like close to 90% or more were internalists, our family practitioners who were specializing. Now as time goes on, is much more, some family practice people, but now all kinds of specialists, 30,000 hospitalists in the United States and over 3,300 hospitals. Everything sounds good. There are few training programs for hospitalists. I understand some internal medicine tracks now have a specialty in hospital medicine, and they're trying to develop some of them actual fellowship in training. The American Board has already set up the American Board of Hospitalist Medicines, and now they're trying to figure out how to get training and set up the rules for that. I have some salaries I can quote for you in our particular area if you need to know that, and I assume we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes up. Because a big part of it is going to be if you are employed, what kind of fringe benefits do you have? So that gets us into pretty close. Things to think about when choosing a private practice versus an employed. Let's see if I can work this thing. If you are trying to go somewhere to get employed, I think you need to look at the kind of patients do you go. Do you want to go to Indian Reservation? You want to go downtown? Do you want to go urban medicine out in the country? What kind of medicine do you want? Do you want people who are really into health care? You want people who aren't into health care? If you write a script and you give it to somebody and they don't take it to medicines, how does that make you feel, your practice? What does that do to your patients and you as a physician? The hours you work per day, if you start to get in a contract, and by the way, I looked up on the internet, if you want to go legal contracts, they got lawyers who specialize in helping you get legal contracts for employed physicians now. Go through all kind of stuff, and we'll be happy to, for a fee, help you write a contract that you want that helps suit you. What I did was, and I don't know what you guys do, be real interested in, was I went through and told the person, I get the contract, but I want to read every bit of it myself. Then if I have any real questions, I can go to a lawyer and go back and talk to them and see what we want to do with these parts of the contracts that you have questions about. Pages and pages if you want legal contracts. How many hours of work a day, how many patients I have to see, any required calls, extra pay. These are just normal things you think about. Another thing I think is really important is who is my boss? I think you need to know real clearly, you've got practice managers to help you, who is your boss, how do you get along with that person? I've had some bosses, I'll go on and tell you this, I've had some bosses in the military, two-star generals that liked their rank and wore on their sleeves. I had other two-star generals come and ask me, Colonel, what do you need to make this the best dang hospital in the world? And the other ones wanted you to bow down thrice no matter what they said. And there's no question in my mind which one of those I want to go into war with. No question. And I find almost that same thing with some people, we're talking about personalities and where their authority, and I'm the boss, I'm over you, sport, do you understand that? Whether they say it or not, clearly their communication does that. Yes, I love you, kind of stuff when it comes across. So whether you really like this boss or not, I think you ought to think about that a little bit, because if you get yourself in, I hear people that tell me, God, I got to go to work today. I want to tell you, if you go every day of your life to a job that you really don't like and hate going, hey guys and girls, is it worth it? Your happiness, what is that worth? So I would hope you can get a job that you really enjoy doing. And if you do that, then work's a pleasure. Let's go see what we can do today to help people. And then if you're looking at the relationships there, staff assistants you have, accommodations, cars, meals, what part of the country you in. If you're out in the rurals, is that good? How far does it go downtown to see a play? Try to look at all the things for you and your family. So look at whether you're again, where you're city, rural, what kind of patients you are, what your spouse and family do, schools, whatever, and living situation. And cost of living. I guess if you go to San Francisco, some of the Hollywood areas, your cost of living is going to be a little bit different than Podunk counties in the rural South Carolina. And all the legal aspects, talked about that just a little bit. Contracts are contracts. They are legal. If you have any questions, you can get you a lawyer. Not real cheap, and there are people who specialize in that now, just helping physicians with contracts for employment. You need to look at insurance, whether you're covered insurance, who's going to do the malpractice, who's going to do health insurance. A lot of other benefits hospitals now will provide me and you. Another thing I think is really important is if somebody is my boss, how many patients do I have to see? And some people will even tell you how much you earn on getting your salary. And a lot of hospitals expect you to at least get your salary plus their overhead. You need to know that up front. And you need to know who's going to do the billing coding, whether you're going to do it, and you need to know what's in CPT codes. What is it you have to put in there to get whatever you're doing? The federal government is not very good if you overcharge, and by the way, they don't like it if you undercharge. I asked one of them, hey, what's the problem with undercharging? Are you really doing the quality work? So they want quality, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So you can't even undercharge. And then quality care, documentation. What does your employer, if you're going to be employed by somebody, require you to do with documentation? If you don't document quality of care, you can't prove that it's done. All y'all know this. And That's beating a dead horse. You have to document what you did, and now you have to document quality of care, not only what you did. All the administrative stuff, cost, billing, documentations, your role in that, or you can be happy with somebody else doing that for you. And obvious things like salary, 401 matches, 457 plans, Roth. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but a lot of you guys probably weren't able to do Roths due to income levels. If you make too much, you can't do a Roth. South Carolina Medical has an employee staff, and you can do Roths there no matter how much you weigh. So there are a lot of interesting things you need to know and keep up with things. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, Roth. By the way, does everybody in here think taxes are going to go down in the future? That's an absolute joke. So if you can get in a Roth and you can pay taxes now, you don't pay any later on. I'm sure everybody knows all that stuff, financial stuff. You need to. Well, they can change the law, but if you're in it and that's the stuff you went in, it's kind of hard to change that if you go in it with that. But hey, if it gets real bad, I respect what you're saying. But you're going in that contract now that you will not. You've already paid your taxes on it, but I hear what you're saying. Obviously, sick leave and vacation. You need to look at your contracts, make sure that's spelled out exactly what it is, and then you and I need to go by it. And if you got long-term health care, you got extra sick leave, who's going to pay for that? Free time, CME, your requirements. What in the world is MOC? I see a few gray hairs in here. What is PIP? MOC? Maintenance of certification. I'm sure all you guys are going through that, enjoying that. PIPs, patient surveys. Does that come out of your time, or does that come out of employee time? And that comes out of patient care billing. So just need to look at that, who's going to do that. And you probably going to have that to be working. By the way, Larry Faulkner was in South Carolina, chairman of the Department of Mental Health. He's now CEO of the Board of Medical Specialty Exams. He now is giving out he's responsible for all this MOC, PIPs, and all this stuff you're doing. And that's to document that you and I are doing quality care. You're trained, you keep up with the latest stuff, you're doing quality care. Several of the state boards, after talking to him, they wanted to make sure you and I were doing quality care. And due to the budget cuts, that part got left out right now. Don't be surprised if that might not come back. You and I are going to have those certifications to show you doing quality care by some state boards of licensure. Interesting. Keep your eyes open for that one. Another thing I had to talk about recently was EHR. Anybody who's in private practice now, you're going to bring up those costs, or is it better to go to a hospital that's already got that and going to do that? It doesn't come out of your pocket. Some clearly things are evolving now that you and I need to look at, whether you want to do private practice or go continue private practice or go employed. Some advantages, and you've heard people talking about this already. No overhead. If you're employed, you don't have to keep an office open, sick times, vacation times, whatever, for physicians as well as staff. Personnel, so how many staff employees do you hire to do the job? Comes out of your overhead. Retirement pay for you and your staff. Do you have to earn enough to give them retirement pay to keep good people there? FICA, your part and patient's part if you're employed. If you're employed, you don't have to do that part. FICA and all the training for safety for your staff. Private offices, and now you have to keep all your people trained for safety. HIPAA, all the stuff you're going to have to do in a private offices. The other thing is, do you have a boss? And somebody was talking about that. You need to decide your personality, where you're okay with having a boss. Because a lot of times you and I have been trained in medicine, we are responsible for whatever happens and does not happen. So that means you're kind of boss. So you have to decide that role. Can you switch gears? Can you change? And boy, the military helps you understand that real clearly. Anybody over you, clearly your boss, and you say, yes, sir. Some disadvantages, if you are the boss, you got all the responsibilities above. If you don't, you don't. And most employed physicians take less salary, but you have less headaches. About 5 minutes. Let me run through real quickly here. Your time, if you go into a locum tenens for 1 or 2 weeks, how important is that? Somebody told me you can suck up and shovel manure for a little while if you have to. But if you start going a month to years out, you might want to start looking at how important some of these things are. Slow down in careers, keeping involved with meaningful activities. You start retirement, maybe it's something you can do. Future stuff we need to look at. I don't know if the Obamacare Accountable Care Act goes through. Best medicine practice, someone's talking about quality issues. EHR, they're going to look at everything me and you do. We're going to do DRGs. What are you going to do? Hospital level days. Can you use generics? You go, how much time do you spend now in your office trying to get tier 2, tier 3 drugs, whatever? A1Cs, if quality care, if your patients don't have the highest number of A1Cs that other people do, is that your fault or the patient's? Can you document you doing everything to get it? Drugs and alcohol. If your patients have much stuff, where are you and I going to be in that in the future? Quality care stuff and documented. Smoking, more of your patients smoke than others, drinking, drugging. And who's responsible for that? Now I want to just touch 2 other things here and let's talk about to get you guys involved. Nurse practitioners. Y'all going to hear a whole lot more about a white paper? Everybody know what I'm talking about, a white paper? Listen for that while you're down here. There's a white paper out. The nurse practitioners want to go completely independent practice and not need any supervision from you and may ask for it if they need it. Big thing going on down here. Where's SEMA with that? You'll hear a whole lot more about that. And another one, I heard somebody talk about this, Press Ganey. And surveys. If you don't give a person, I'm in an ER, some of my colleagues here, if you're in an ER and you don't give somebody all the narcotics they want or drugs they want, Press Ganey stuff, does that mean quality care if you get a low Press Ganey? So a lot of stuff you and I are going to be dealing with in the future. And somebody's got to figure out how's the best way to deal with that, whether you're employed or private practice. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Press Ganey, if we got a physician that has a low Press Ganey score, they're going to pay that person less than where you're going to be on the staff. Stuff we'll have to deal with in the future. As we get more involved in communication, EHRs, clearly we're going to get more involved in that stuff. Now, I again want to sincerely thank you for letting me share. My final words are something like this. There's a lot of changes going on. I hope you know what the future holds. I sure don't. But I think you need to be as competent as you can, as kind, caring, taking care of other people in our profession, competent job you can, good relationships, hold your head up, stand tall, walk on. God bless.